Son of the deity, you look terrible. Get out of the blistering sun. Join me here within the sheltering penumbra of my multitude, son of a beach umbrella. Hair a-frizz, dark circled eyes, no make-up. You are the one who bears the forlorn countenance of a prisoner, not me. Why so pallid and miserable? Not for me, I hope. I am in agreement with Camus. I am happy, I tell you. I won't allow you to believe that I am not happy. I am happy unto death. I am happy because now you are here, where I have brought you. You are still hesitant, but you are here, on this beach, on my island, within sight, touch, hearing. What's that? No, it is not already too late. You asked me not to see you again. We did see each other, of course, the next day, or the day after, or the day after that. It may have been by chance. You were waiting for nothing. You were as though dead. That's not true. You are still alive. You are here. I see you. Do you remember? It's not true, probably. You've already forgotten everything. Forever walls, hallways, forever doors, and on the other side yet more walls, before rejoining. Here you are again. You have returned. Why? Perhaps you have bad news about my case, an unfortunate pre-trial ruling against me. What? Yes, you are correct. It is difficult to travel with a visionary neurotic, a postmodern prophet, a woe-begone wayfarer stumbling through the land of dead. And of course there are the bleeding walls, the Nazi paratroopers, and the hanging spider. My life is not easy. Do you not feel sorry for me? Then why do you still refuse the role of idealistic attorney? Maybe it is time we recast you. I still have an opening for a mechanical muse, another of my lovely creation. Her job is to produce my authorized dreamography. In this concept, you would be an old high school sweetheart, a common metaphor for the archetypal muse who has been converted into a computer program on the Martian space probe, intimate yet alien. We communicate via secret government black ops email. Then I lose your signal, i.e. boy loses girl. I must find you all again. Mary Hardin Baylor, I have resumed my search. That old prediction of our together calls to me, ordering me to send a signal back for our interpersonal good. They will condemn us, the purveyors of the old modern future, through the great way of the postmodern age. They wish us to finally and irrevocably expire under this our administered Star-Spangled Banner of the brave. But it is no consequence. Be standard, I say. The individual is everything. The rules alone do not determine what is best for you and me, and we are really just holding social anarchy at bay. Does that sound right to you? Not me. But the flippant, stay-at-home mob is true in many ways, oft having a blank slate upon which we can rewrite our past. You can do it. They also give us hope in the Stanford on Earth, adding that the new tests were good for anything you want. Someone will support you, namely sociologists, in an attempt to understand the chaos of those middle years, what we societal U.S. nobodies would stop to contact Earth. So please, hang on a little longer. I, the Wednesday of their discontent, enter the red planet's atmosphere this month. Efforts to detect a weak signal that you could command were to be repeated today. Processing data is the least of your worries. Some people believe there are those among us who have come from Mars. Those individuals weren't going to say good for you, especially while our time, place, location was being programmed for a return to Christendom. But as of January 4, we'd yet to detect the lander project. Everything is still. Go for the lander, of course. We could still be trying to contact it if only we came to ourselves in time to detect craft and send a radio transmission, which would be blown away. I support you while others condemn you, because it was I who picked up all that we've got. There's no common ground save for the 150-foot diameter dish, which was expected to take us on as its friend, getting a phone call. Our old expectations are shackled to the December constructs by the warrants of everyone else. To live as did, to rule out the possibility that our side is controlled by someone else, someone who said we are but a long shot. They live with someone here, no doubt, a personal aeronautics and space administration employee who sends commands to the $165 array. We choose on-beam signals that were immediately detected, but the antenna team recently concluded that the dish might do right after all. They contemplate a mission between the modern and postmodern age via the collective unconscious, now under the control of the evil Ozona cabal. Still, there is hope. People have been doing that for centuries, or days, they say. There's honor in that. Can you pass me water? The climax occurs on the mysterious north face of the Mount of Divine, where I am part of the climbing team led by Dollar Bill Buckstop, the larger-than-life Texas billionaire and resident of Stranger's Rest, who is preparing to open the first drive-in movie theater on the top of the world. I plan to use a high-tech antennae array at the construction site to re-establish the cosmic link with Mary Hardin Baylor. But somewhere near the summit, the billionaire is murdered and the team is caught in a supernatural blizzard, compelling me to choose between saving the remaining members of the expedition and saving my one true love. Perhaps not as inspired as the cinematic creation of The Stranger, but give me some time. After all, I'm still just a conventional dreamer. At any rate, I'm quite pleased to see you, for I have good news to share. I have received a high-quality transmission of the land of dead. Something important has happened in the firmament, and I have the authority to tell those who have not received the transmission, that what the transmission is. The woman on the neighboring island came to see me last night. We did not have a meeting of the membranes in this dream. No, this was a dream, a big dream, a vision of the deity. This is so big it may be the opening scene for the movie. I am in the classroom with a beautiful girl, but we must be dating, for she is hanging on me, hugging me, while the teacher while the teacher talks. The class is religious in content and seems to be oriented towards earning an award, perhaps a badge for Boy Scout. But I make some comment that I can't meet one of the requirements, which has to do with the prohibition against ever having molested a child. The teacher says that means I can't get the award. I immediately say I was just joking, but I know this is poor excuse for humor, almost as bad as if they were true. Why have I made such an unacceptable joke? I have sinned in my heart. I don't deserve war. Then I am in the final bedroom of my youth in Duncanville. Looking in my closet, there is a DNA delivery organ on the hanger at the tip of the hook and inserted perhaps a quarter of an inch into the injection port. Somehow the organ is mine and not mine, all at the same time. That is, it is both real and a visual rumor, but the organ must be mostly metaphor, because I am not disturbed by the fact it is on a hanger rather than properly attached to my body. Also, I notice that the organ has become a bit misshapen from its time forgotten in the closet, so long unused. This is metaphorical too, perhaps a visual rumor of my neglected and wounded instinctual drive. It occurs to me that I might yet be able to repair it, twist it, and push it back into its original shape so it looks normal again. Functionality can be restored. Back on campus, I see now that the school I attend is a seminary, a citadel of the defenders of faith. I am standing outside the main building, thinking about the error of my ways, my sinful nature. Just then a statue falls from the top of the building. Somehow I am making it fall. My presence is literally pulling it down from its perch. The statue crashes to the ground less than 3 feet, smashed into hundreds. This statue was the school's venerated icon, a man in a sort of knight's helmet, a Christian soldier. But now the honored visual rumor of the seminary is no more. Hard to believe the statue lasted as long as it did, for I see that it was actually not solid, but ceramic and hollow. The outside surface was weathered, but the inside remained white and clean. In this heap of broken images, I notice one element remained intact. It is the front of the knight's helmet, which lies on the ground like a discarded mask. A crowd forms. One of the faculty members berates me for his destruction of heresy. I do feel guilty. After all, the statue fell because of me, but at the same time I am also indignant. I am the one who should be upset, I insist. I could have been injured or killed by this falling object. It should have been better maintained. A second professor, a black woman, also criticizes me. I don't really get the details of her argument, but I counter that the statue is not important to Christianity. People are important, I say, not statues. I don't feel that I am particularly persuasive, and yet I must be brave enough, for she responds positively. I enjoy this sort of debate, she says. At this point, I am joined by the girl from the beginning of the dream, and the three of us walk together to one of the seminary's classroom buildings. As we cross a parking lot, a semi-rig is backing slowly towards. I must move back to give it a wide berth. I step between two columns and enter an outdoor corridor where I and the girl follow the professor into the building. It's still early morning, so the building is not yet open to students, but we follow the professor in through the special access point, faculty only. Inside, the girl gives me a paper, an essay on or research paper, I think, that I am to present to the professor. But first I must spit out some fatty, half-chewed meat I have in my mouth. It tastes awful, I can't even swallow it. So I walk across the room to a sort of wall-mounted ashtray, the tight with a lever that causes the metal bowl to split into two halves. I see that the shiny steel is filthy, contaminated by the use of other half-eaten bites, no doubt discarded by other heritage before me. I use my finger to clean the meat out of my mouth. Did you know Buckstop went to seminary? I understand it is hard to picture him as an academic. The over-the-top cowboy personality is just an act. Buckstop was a true believer, but then he fell away from true belief. When the venerated icon shattered at his feet, he did not follow kindly. Instead, he stepped off the interpreted path and lost himself in the dark forest, where he came to believe that extraterrestrial insects are the reason for all problems since the dawn of the creation. He thought it was critical to promote the ideas of aerial time believers, ideas which have long driven the alleged extraterrestrial kidnapping topic into community consciousness. Why? Because Buckstop believed these kidnapped and the alien kidnappers were in fact he desired humankind to join together to battle the spawn of Satan in a high-tech holy war. I am trying to save the war, he told me in our one brief meeting on board of the aerial clock, as he prepared to bring to life the world's first privately owned and operated deity, i.e. me. His plans may have been secret, but his ideas certainly were not. He even published a religious tract titled "The End is Here," an excerpt. For many epochs now, the human creature has knowingly listened to the suggestions of the extraterrestrial insects, suggestions that have been opposed by all genuine clairvoyance and prophet. Now the age of the circadian is fully upon us. If tragedy is to be evaded, we must immediately seize the moment. The hands of the clock are spinning. The signs are all visible. Financial, communal, cartographic, physical, technical. We are in a critical state of affairs. Before the conclusion of this generation, catastrophic and destructive occurrences may well rip apart the world, while the currents of pointless, illogical violence wash over the tallest peaks of the planet, shortly drowning each nation. And as the visual rumor of ethical and religious decomposition increase, who can disbelieve that some of the extraterrestrial insects have participated in the destruction? And if human beings or organizations can be manipulated, then administrations and entire states can be manipulated too. Already, American churches are profoundly penetrated. Make no mistake, the circadian matter is not one of mysticism, but rather of deliberate mystification. Authorities and strategies are being strengthened silent, and nothing is more authoritative or strategic than the silent inner workings of the circadian control keeper, the deity. For decades, their strategies have been kept at the ready, primed for delivery at exactly correct hour. This hour is already set. They call it the Battle of the Armageddon. Charlie, the metaphorical and mythopoetic theology of next year at Marienbad is a far cry from the spiritual liberalism insisted upon by the keeper of the deed, especially the rigorous variety of literalism espoused in the Abandoned Ones series. Elmo. This is one of the central reasons Mark Leach has been labeled an ancient of the antique. Why do the keepers find his belief system so odious? Why is it so terrible to wish for the destruction of the venerated icon and step off the interpreted path and into the unexplored forest of original experience? To gain some insight, we had wanted to invite the author, the Abandoned Ones, to our show, but the logistics were impossibly complex due to the 100-yard requirement imposed in this restraining order. One little Bible burning. Why can't you church people? Haha, just kidding. But not to worry. We have a special guest. Claret, frankly, is the author. No Hell Too Deep, a newly published tome that flays Leach and other 1950 B-movie and sci-fi filmmakers who pursue what she calls a false apocalyptic genre, and she specifically claims Next Year at Marienbad contains secret doubt-creating satanic codes which are designed to infiltrate the souls of weak-willed and dissuade them from accepting the truth, the rapture. Welcome, Claret. Thank you. In your book, you say that many believers today are being blinded to the facts of the end of the world. Some even submit to this blinding willing. Claret, what type of worship of the deity would intentionally avert their eyes, fact of the rapture, and prefer 1950 sci-fi? In 2 Timothy, we learned that the worshippers of the deity who do not bear steadfast decree, but instead go after their own yearnings, will gather around themselves all variety of bad sorts. Adulterers, murderers, abortionists, Democrats. These bad sorts are in league with the directors and cinematographers of a false apocalypse. Those who do not bear steadfast decree will avert their eyes from the facts of the Son of the Deity and turn in unto the 1950 B-movie sci-fi anti-Christ. So they're believers, but they fall away from the truth. Exactly. These people are worshippers of the deity because they possess the knowledge of the facts at one time. The problem is they turned away from those facts in favor of a more palatable sci-fi, which they found easier to swallow than the spiritual water of the utterance of deity. The only protection against this Satan-induced doubting is to be a true, twice-could worship of the deity. So you're saying that the 1950s B-movie sci-fi, which is a fictional story that is intended to turn men from the facts, is actually Satan's non-fiction reward for believers who are tired of steadfast greed. No, not at all. It's definitely fiction, as in a bald-faced lie. False directors and cinematographers give the weak-willed believers what they want to see and hear. All worshippers of the deity must strive to distrust what they yearn to see and hear, and instead exercise themselves unto godliness by consuming the pure spiritual water of the true utterance. The false cinematic utterances are to be rebuffed by the worshipper of the deity because they are blasphemous or impure. But Mark Leach says the central image of his movie, The Clock in the Sky, is a sign of the deity, so it is about God. That certainly doesn't sound blasphemous or pure to me. The clock in the air is an ancient occult visual rumor. It is a sign of Satan. It is one of the evil one's doubts, the doubt-induced code. Same with the destruction of the venerated icon. Clearly, the shattered statue is code for the destruction of the destruction of the deity, which of course is another lie spout by the Antichrist. I see here on the dust jacket that you claim the false cinematic utterances are to be cast aside because they hold both light and darkness. What do you mean by that? It's simple, really. The deity cannot be a combination of light and darkness. The deity is light, all light. In him there is no dark at all. But Mark Leach points out that we all cast a shadow, that you can't have a light without darkness. Not the deity. He is all light, and he magnifies the shining brilliance of his utterances even above his own name. But Mark Leach he would have us accept as true that the deity is satisfied with abhorrent conduct. Mr. Leach believes the deity has judged that it is okay to consume illegal mysticism, present cash offerings to primal goddesses, and expel your ectoplasm willy-nilly into the membrane, former high school. In all fairness, I'm not sure that Mark is actually endorsing. If the content of a fictional story that is directed toward worshippers of the deity is blasphemous and projects question marks onto the unconditional facts of the deity utterance, and turns men away from the facts in any way, then that is an endorsement. This fictional work of darkness must be edited away by the Satan-free people of the deity. By the true Satan-free people. Isn't it true that Mark Leach has said that he is a monotheist and therefore does not believe in Satan? Well, there you go. That's an example of what happens inside the soul when doubt-creating satanic codes are introduced into a false, once-created worshipper of the deity. That's why the Son of the Deity said you must be a twice-created worshipper of the deity. It's the only way to become spiritual fireproof and thereby escape destruction in the lagoon of the flames. Yes, back to the retreat. What? Miss Franklin, do you believe Mark Leach will be judged by the deity? We'll all judged. That is the fact made clear by the deity. But I have received a high-quality transmission from heaven on this very subject. Without a doubt, Mr. Leach's Armageddon Day will be most unpleasant. He is an issuer of blasphemous decrees, movies that make marketplace commodities out of the deity's people and those yet to become the deity's people. Mr. Leach's so-called incredible revelations disguise the right way of the deity, and he will judge all directors and cinematographers of such false movies accordingly. As it states in Matthew 18, it would be better for such a detestable movie maker that a heavy reel of celluloid were hanged his neck, and that he were drowned in the roiling surf, the inner sea. Beware of the riptide. Jack the Jaguar accelerates into the warm flesh of desire, propelling us through the passionate membrane into eager. We close in on the car of dreams from the last Saturday night of long-expired youth. The Vanity Breed, 1964 Fi. Fuel injection, he marvels, and for me there is the appeal of the driver of 1964 Fi. Wind buffets her long blonde mane, a thick cotton blouse and dairy cow print fluttering around her curving form, a striking beauty, big-boned and farmer's daughter fresh, a girl who loves cows. Pastoral images inform his impending fantasy. He zooms in on the gaping arm, catches a glimpse of the raw mammary tissue, a giant pink creature sinking along on a milky pseudopod, crushing houses and cars in search of corn-fed can desire. Moves of sleeveless pleasure, joy glinting off polished horn and upturned mouth, a carnal sense regarded in a private corner of erotic shame. Guiltily I look back at the road and see another thin restoration materializing. It is an oncoming Volvo, Allison at the wheel. We have been up half the night, a case of inconsolable Justin. Silvery colic, generating a condensating gleam from the emergency room nurse, the handing over of an infuriating, useless pamphlet, the return of a 3-month-old monster, and the receipt of our ACE check. Are you angry? Allison asked. No, I'm perfectly fine. Are you sure? Because you're acting like a total shithead. Can't you just... No, I can't. Forgive me, but we must pause again. Consider the parallels to Let Me Love You. At times it seems as if the elements of this great drive-in movie classic and my own life so inextricably linked as to be one in the same. I recently received a letter from little Susie Happenstue, an 8-year-old larva in Miss Beechmeyer's second-grade cart-carrying day school class at Clark, our creator and sustainer church. Dear God, is there a Mrs. God? Love, Susie. Good question, little Susie, glad you asked. Back in the day, I did have a wife. We were very happy. Actually, that is not entirely true. I was happy. Mrs. God filed the divorce, and child support and alimony in participating state is what wives used to do to men. They were not happy being married anymore. Wives did this because the law prohibited them from cutting off their husband's package. What's a package? Well, my beloved creations, because you reproduce through the use of cellular mitosis and fibrous husks, you do not have packages. But let me tell you, they were just about the most important part of the anatomy of 21st century male Homo sapiens and absolutely essential to. Back in the day when a man loved a woman very much, he would express that love by compelling the woman to assume various unlikely positions while he inserted his package in her bodily orifices. This allowed all the love inside the man to go into the woman, sometimes 3 or 4 times a night if a man had a sufficiently enormous packet, like God. Anyway, this is what men like me called sharing. Sharing is good, right? Sharing is caring, which is the heart of caringism, the religion I have given you, my beloved nations. Yes, it is better to share than not share. Sharing makes us happy. Back in the day, sometimes a man had so much love inside he wanted to share it with lots of women, squirting it inside them, especially inside his 22-year-old administrative assistant with the big boobs and the tight ass looking so fine on top of his desk in the corner office after the cleaning crew had gone home for the night. Picture me rolling. This was sharing too, but it turns out this particular form of sharing was not so good. What's that? Why, thank you. I must admit I do have a way with it. Back in the day, I was what people called a spin doctor. Companies would sometimes get a sort of illness, which typically manifested itself in the form of what was referred to by agitated members of upper management as a motherfucker. That is, a newspaper reporter or television anchor person. These motherfuckers would report terrible, damaging things about companies, such as the supertanker is leaking crude oil on the baby seals, or the nursing home caused little Kevin's grandmother to starve to death. Terrible. Do you believe these lies? Of course not. I made you smarter than that. Back in the day, though, my fellow Homo sapiens were not so smart. They often believed the lies of motherfuckers. If the lies were sufficiently bad, then it would make it difficult for the company to continue to make the amount of money to which its shareholders believed they were entitled. That's where I came in. My job, make the lie go away, or at least diminish its impact, so my company could continue to make the amount of money to which its shareholders believed they were entitled. Typically, I would do this by telling the true story which had been incorrectly reported. I would start by telephoning the motherfucker and saying something like, I know you have a job to do. I used to be a reporter too, so I'll tell you everything you want to know. This is what we called transparency, no secrets. It was as if to say, listen, motherfucker, I'm going to tell you everything you want to know. Then I would tell the motherfucker what I wanted him to know. Take the baby seals, for instance. I might say, we are pleased to put this minor accident behind us. If the motherfucker then countered my claim of a minor accident with some wild tale about thousands of seals dying on an oil-slicked beach in Alaska, I might say these deaths have nothing to do with us, but are a natural part of God's plan in the cycle of life. If this still didn't work, then I might tilt my head to one side and ask, what seal? In fact, many times I would start with one truth, and if it didn't work out, I would switch to another truth. A good spin doctor knows many truths. In the case of little Kevin's grandmother, I might start by saying our nursing home serves meals that are both savory and nutritious. If the motherfucker then televised a shot of little Kevin crying, I might say, don't cry, little Kevin, your grandmother lives with Jesus now. That's a spin doctor. Really, we should call it truth doctor. That's right, I was a doctor of the truth, and I was very good at it. What I wasn't so good at was recognizing the spin, aka truth, doesn't work in every situation. For instance, the truth doesn't work at all in Mary. At least it didn't with Mrs. God. I recall a vision recorded by my prophet in the sacred text aptly titled The Voice of God. We have recently purchased an old house, which we will restore for our new home. It appears to be from the 1930s, a rather plain example of Tudor style. The house is uphill from the road, and the narrow driveway, just one car wide, lies along the right side of the house. On the other side of the drive, just past the house, is a freestanding garage. However, there is no access to this garage from the driveway, not much landscaping here, no shade trees, just a large planting bed encompassing most of a slope at the back of the house. I go to a restaurant where I am to meet my wife. I am seated and brought a drink, but still she does not show. I begin to worry, perhaps she doesn't know come. Then I run into a friend who is here for a business meal with a motherfucker from some trade publication. The journalist is out of the room, so we are not introduced. When he returns to the table, he does not know I am a daily newspaper motherfucker sitting within earshot. I listen to everything, marveling that if anything newsworthy is discussed, I will be able to beat this motherfucker print. Then I am outside, behind the restaurant, at the rear entrance. There is a set of three or four of open construction, no risers, revealing a sort of exposed cistern below. I slide a dead man into the water. Am I the one who killed him? I'm not sure, though it is clear that by disposing of the body, I am an accessory. I watch the body sink feet first into the water, which appears to be lit from within. The water is white, as if watered down milk, but clear enough that I can see the dead man for several feet before he fades from sight. I throw gold into the cistern too. Somehow the gold is associated with the man. It occurs to me the body will eventually float back to the surface. When the police come to investigate, though, they will not know to look in the body. They probably won't find the gold, which means I can later retrieve the treasure. Then I realize the cistern is just a glass jar. I pick it up, and through the milky water I see there are jagged pieces of glass or maybe metal in the bottom of the jar. No gold, no little corpse. I return to my house. In the backyard I see a Suburban, and a woman is sitting at the wheel. She is waiting for me. Somehow I know she is associated with the dead man. In fact, she is supposed to be dead, too. Yet she is alive. I suspect she is really the walking dead. She is angry, here to confront me. Did I kill her? Were we sexually involved? If so, this could be doubly bad for me. Trouble with the police and my wife. Mrs. God did not like this vision. If you ever cheat on me, I'll kill you, she threatened. Harsh. Did she not understand the metaphors of the old house and the dead man and the gold? Truthfully, I'm the guy with gold. Isn't that obvious, I wonder? Did we even read the same book? Ah, the life of the misunderstood God. Here's the truth. I did not insert my pack into other women while I was married to that woman, Mrs. God. Other husbands, other men did this, but not me. Just them, not me. Well, perhaps occasionally me, but such as the time I shared my love on the desk with the 20-year-old administrative assistant with boobs, and one time, okay, maybe several. Anyway, that's why back in the day Mrs. God wanted to cut off my package. Let the record show I don't do that sort of sharing anymore. Not that it matters. Mrs. God has gone, lives now. See what I mean? Am I not Clark Caring? Do you not see the undeniable similarities? Can you not understand why this is my favorite movie? You do? Good. At last. Now let us continue. Back in the evening traffic, something sighted ahead. More memory reflect in the safety glass? No. It is the girl again, connecting with me via a knowing glance captured in the side view mirror. Sometimes objects are closer than they appear. Embarrassed, I quickly turn away, losing myself in high-gloss paint, resigned to a quick fantasy pinstriped in red lipstick. She's doing 90, Jack says, clearly impressed. We pull up alongside the blonde and Jack motions for me to roll down his window. Is that thing working? He asks, pointing to the radar detector suction cup to her windshield. It better be, she shouts back. Great car. Thanks. Where are you going? The girl rolls her eyes, but smiles to let us know she isn't offended. I blink in disbelief. Is that really her, thoughtfully chewing her cud? No, the pink thought bubble reveals the truth, but it does not matter. I live the fantasy, touching her fine pink udder, teats as big as a thumb. Whoa, this beautiful creature burning in my lust. Then she is gone, zipping past a lumbering semi, its big diesel whine insisting on an unabridged gulf between us. Jack does not try to follow. What's a girl like her doing with a great old stingray like that? He asks. She must have had a brother or boyfriend pick it out for her. She probably wanted it because she thought it was cute. I saw a big diamond on her left hand, but I bet she wants it, Max says. The remark is more casual than pathetic, though. He is already gone, shifting the smooth British gears, rods and pistons, doing the old in out through the clean yellow oil, moving the bulbous steel down the road, beyond the blonde and the car, and on into the lights ahead. A bare night sojourn for a frantic, futile trip. We approach a line of freeway fronting auto dealers, the nearest one sweeping the sky with a giant searchlight, its mirrored white flame illuminating a cow-shaped cloud grazing over Texas Stadium. I just get so revved up when I drive into the lights of the city, Jack says. It always makes me feel like something wonderful about to happen. Plato's Palace is a little purgatory for the primal goddess, a stopping off point between East Texas trailer park poverty and the upscale flesh temples where the well-tipped priestess can enhance Mother Nature's bequest with surgical implant, and for those with even more ambitious imaginations, a springboard to Hollywood. Porno, anyway. So it's no surprise that perhaps a half-dozen goddesses are crowding around the stranger and his crew, who are here to shoot Jack and me on our big night on the town. Patrons, waitresses, and bouncers are also at hand, observing, arms crossed, standing on chairs, peeking around the bar, idling in the doorway, but the goddesses are front and center, ogling the accoutrements of movie-making, heavy cables, blue-white lights, boom microphones, digital video cameras, and of course the stranger, director of the epic film. The girls brush fingertips across the hair on his forearms, throw their heads back in fake laughter, whisper into his ear, finger the little palm-sized viewfinder dangling from the lanyard around his neck. All right then, he says. Mark, this is the scene where you cross the first threshold and enter special world. What is he talking about? Jack asks, and the stranger does not hear him. You prepare to cross the threshold, continues a sojourner, into an odd borderland, an earth sandwiched between earths, a region of passage that may be deserted and forlorn, or in locations similar to this, full of days. You detect the nearness of other creatures, other powers with pointed barbs or talons protecting the path to the jewels for which you search. But you have no time to withdraw. Every one of us senses it. The journey is underway, for better or worse. One of the bouncers, a meaty guy with a giant wedge of muscle for the back and a tree trunk for a neck, shakes his head. Sorry, the boss says no filming tonight. The stranger, in turn, shakes his head at great condescension. I have a contract. Get real, it's a Saturday night. Another bouncer remarks. It's our biggest 8 hours of the week. The boss isn't going to let you get in the way of that. The stranger considers this. He nods. We'll proceed with that, he says offhandedly, almost rudely, without looking at the bouncers. We'll do this scene later on a soundstage in Las Colinas. It'll look more real anyways, and just so you'll know, Plato's Palace is out. We'll call it Caligula's 21 DNA delivery organ. After the stranger and crew leave, Jack and I take our usual table in the back under the stylized mural of a chiseled, marble-jawed man outfitted in gold-flaked toga and laurel. These Baroque ornaments, this Venetian plaster hand holding grapes behind it, foliage as though from a garden awaiting us beyond these walls, panelled in the Baroque embellishment of an early time. Mute rooms where footsteps are lost in sculpted Berber, so profound, so deep, that one perceives no step, as if the ear itself were distant and remote from this numb, barren decor, far from the elaborate Roman frieze beneath the cornice, with its branches and garlands like dead leaves. What's the only thing Roman about this place? That's the only thing Roman about this place, isn't it? I said. Why is there never any orgy action? Used to be quite a few here, Jack assures. I want to sit around in a toga while they feed grape. They used to do that too, but there's still plenty of fun. You just have to work at it. Then Jack leaned in conspiratorially and whispered, "That once did me under the table last week." It is a familiar story, sending a wave of voyeuristic disgust wash over me. How do you get women to do these things to you? Do you hypnotize them, leave big offerings or something? Jack laughs and takes a big swallow of drink greenish sacrament called a California kamikaze. Nothing like that. She did it for free. Her name's Sally. She's real nice. She's just an acolyte. She doesn't do right. I was in a few weeks ago, and I kept ordering drinks from her, and we started talking. Last week I came in again and made her drink a few too. She starts pretending like she's going to give me a prophecy. It was real funny. I was laughing my head off. Then she kneels down right in front of me. He indicates a point between his spread knees, and I'm still laughing, and then she grabs my crotch and zips down my pants. I shake my head and tip back my drink, tart with a slight taint of decay, as he finishes the story. I tried to pace myself, but she was like a race car. I was spent in about a minute. How could you do it with all these people around? Nobody could see anything. She was under the table. I just sat there, watching the goddesses and enjoying my drink. No, I mean, how could you maintain? Maintain? Jack just shrugged his shoulders and smiled. He had once proposed that we jointly write a book. I'd write, he'd research, about the actual business of primal worship. He asked if we could get some serious money for research, i.e. drinks and offers, but was disappointed to learn that a publisher's advance likely. Then Jack snaps his fingers. How about we get The Stranger to turn this movie into a documentary, a story about primal goddess industry? I don't think he's going to go for that. He's pretty set on doing a movie about the end of the world. Well, goddamn, he's used. I burst out laughing at the uncharacteristic curse which eggs Jack on. I mean, I loan you my on-being gear, and what do you do with it? If it were me, I'd have gone straight for Porno Lane. Dream a date Catherine Zeta-Jones in spandex, but not you. No, you go on Beam and dream up Cecil B. DeMille. And how did you get him out of the virtual canvas here in real life? I don't have a clue. Damn, you should have been dreaming Catherine Zeta-Jones. You missed out. Jack downs the rest of the drink and motions to the bartender for 2 more. "And I'm bringing back something extra special for you," he says. "What?" "Nothing to worry about, just a little well-deserved fun. I don't know. I think I just want to watch tonight." "That's all you ever wanted," he says through his laughter. "Trust me, you're going to like this. She's special." "Oh yeah? What makes her special?" "I don't know. She just is." "Okay, journalist." "I don't know. She tells you your secret thought. They all do that. Look, just finish your drink. I'll be right back." I watched Jack talk to the bartender, rescinding his off order and calling up a customized version of the sacrament. He points to the various bottles of unlikely combinations, occasionally using his thumb and forefinger to indicate proportion. The bartender appears to be having a good time. Jack certainly is. The scene reminds me of another night, drink life to go. It was our senior year in high school, one cold, star-crazed February night on a manicured berm at Green, a subdivision where Jack's father had been building. Fortified with a gallon jug of burgundy wine, we broke out the guitars and puffed warm breath into numbed fingers for duet of Rocky Raccoon and Tom Dooley, the only 2 songs to which we both knew all the chords. In between performances, we laid out the plans for our life. Marriage, children. We'd never let divorce mar our lives. We were good Christian boys, and if we could manage it, we'd even be next door neighbor, living in the house that Jack would build. Even then, he knew he wanted to be a home builder, like his dad. We had big plans for our movie of life. The script did not include drinking green sacraments with primal goddesses. I am overwhelmed by egregious moral fail. Condemned. How is it with me, you ask? How is it with this, my sense of decay and death? Picture yourself as me. You are watching a movie from within a movie. You are there, but apparently only as an observer. You play no role, nor do you interact with anyone. The scene is inside a huge building, a very high ceiling, which rises many stories. You are in some strange Muslim society, but the women do not wear veils, or appear in any way to be second-class citizens. In fact, they appear to be in charge of the proceeding. You understand that the women, although subservient Muslim men, are in control of some very specific aspects of society. Women are in charge of this place, a sort of courtroom where a trial is underway. A man has been brought before the court. He is accused of committing some sin or insult against a woman. You sense that it is more of a cultural misstep than most Americans would think of as a crime. There are only 3 people: the defendant, the plaintiff, and the judge. The plaintiff and the judge are both women. The judge talks about this crime of sin, reciting that you understand Reciting what you understand is the official wording of such a proceeding. If the defendant man is judged guilty, then the punishment will be death. You do not hear the actual charge or anything else that is said. When the time comes for the man to speak, he tells the plaintiff he is terribly sorry. Will you forgive me? He asks. No. His fate is sealed. He must die. The condemned man is suspended from a sort of cable and hoisted high in the air. You assume he will be killed in the air or perhaps dropped to. You do not know the mode of execution. But after the man is raised, he is then partly lowered and raised yet again. You sense that part of his punishment is to prolong his death, a sort of psychological torture. In other words, his fate is left hanging. This is more than the man can take. He leaps from the cable to a catwalk. Suddenly you find yourself on this catwalk too. You now realize that the floor plan of the room is a giant circle, and various levels of catwalks ring the wall. The man tries to hide here for now. There are uniformed male guards or bailiffs hurrying about. They are carrying guns and wearing what looks like a football helmet. These men are in charge of enforcing the act of the women control court. There is a fire of explosion in front of the man, and everything is cloaked in smoke and shadow. Then the air clears, and you see the man now has a black face. Because of flying shrapnel from the explosion, he also has 2 bolts sticking out of his forehead. They look like devil horns. You see something like long, pointy catfish whiskers on his head, swept back in place of what was his. You know, as you view this, that it is intentional cinematic visual rumors. The viewer is to understand the man, by rejecting his justly imposed punishment, has been transformed into a personification of evil, i.e. Satan. This is the shadow made of flesh. The man speaks to someone, perhaps you. Tell my children that I am dead, he says. The moviegoer understands this is visual rumor too. The man turned demon now understands the person he was before is no more. He has been recreated by the fiery explosion. The helmeted men hunt the devil in order to kill him, to carry out the judgment of court. Then you realize the movie is actually your movie, your story. The demon is really you. I don't like the idea of demons, of Satan. I much prefer the theology of let me love. I know, it's just 90s B-movie sci-fi. But let me tell you, Ward Timber was not just some schlock director. He had a message. Don't you ever get tired of hurting me? Yes, I know what you say about me, my beloved creations. I am a bad god, a minor deity with a lowercase g. I am all baldness and dark. Not at all like that other god, the one with the uppercase G. He is a good god. He is all goodness and light. That's what you say. You thought I didn't know. Jehovah had it all figured out. Back in the day, during the Babylonian exile, he allowed his chosen people to develop a dualistic theology. Can you believe it? 2 gods. He was the good one, the creator and sustainer. Satan was the bad one, the destroyer. Even in my time, when most believers claimed to be monotheists, Satan was an essential part of the equation. Even those who didn't believe in the literal prince of the dark found Satan to be a convenient metaphor for the evil in them. Some of you say God is the answer. Maybe so, but how can God be the answer? He is the question. Let us consult the sacred text. And the journey through prohibited places continues. My wife and I are in a strange place, an alien society. We are fleeing from unseen people in a seemingly abandoned structure, maybe a stadium. The design is somewhat reminiscent of the U.S. photos, but on a much larger scale and grander scale. We spot a place almost out of sight near the base where you can see the underlying construction. My wife comments that can see the steel support beam. As we look for a hiding place, we find a marble alcove remnant of ancient Rome. It is perhaps the size of a bedroom. This alcove is out of sight, but I immediately realize that if we are found here, there will be no escape. We will be trapped. If we go in search of a more secure place of safety, we go in search of a more place in search of forever, a past of Carrara marble, like a garden carved in stone, a mansion, its rooms deserted now, still mute, perhaps long dead people, still guarding the web of hallways, along with I advance to meet. Between hedgerows, faces mask-like, watchful, indifferent, towards you as you still hesitate, perhaps gazing at the entrance of the garden, or perhaps an island. And then that we realize there are people everywhere, hurrying about in search of their own hiding. It is growing dark, suggesting to me that the time to get out of sight is almost here. I realize that we are not well suited for this. I am wearing only white boxers, and my wife is in little more than shorts and a top. Where to go? I see a young black man, very dark. He is shirtless. I instantly fear him, and all of the obliviously desperate people around. This man will rape my wife or someone else. Where to go? I see a flight of steps leading to a lower level. The black man waves his hand, showing us the way down the steps, like an usher. I will take you to safe, says. I do not trust him, so I grab my wife's hand and we bolt through a doorway to the outside. We find ourselves standing under a loggia, looking out on a plaza that reminds me of the main square in New Orleans French Quarter. Many people are relaxing in small groups. All of them are young and beautiful, the elite of this society. They are obviously of a higher social caste than the underground people who are scrambling for shelter nightfall. They are dressed for leisure, though in a way I have never seen. On bared stomachs, each person displays a large painted eye. It is the eye of Horus, the ancient Egyptian symbol used to ward off sickness and bring the dead back to life. The latter must be the case here, for the eye was also used as an amulet over the embalmer's incision. That's how you made a suitable mummy. The eye of Horus is a particularly fitting image for this point in the journey, for it was only the day before, in the waking world, that I was reading the Old Testament story of Joseph's dream and his resulting enslavement in Egypt. This was his destiny. These third eye people look us over, instantly judging us to be the inferior underground. We do not belong, they fear us. Not waiting for them to act on this judgment, we run toward the street at the end of the loggia. This creates some excitement. I kick someone in their abdominal eye, and my wife, now inexplicably holding a baby in her arms, breaks into a run. Another of the third eye people produces a large plastic lens, square, perhaps 15 to 20 inches per side, and places it in front of my stomach. Apparently, this action is intended to draw attention to the fact that my abdomen does not possess the required cyclopean makeup. I am blind. I try to follow my wife, but the path is barred by a man. He is a sort of henchman for the man in charge, who I somehow know. I try to fight him. Someone hands me the blade of a plastic toy sword, and the man in charge laughs. Someone else hands me the handle, and I hastily resemble the two pieces. Even though it is a toy, I realize that it is a real sword. I can injure, even kill. With this weapon I lunge at the man in charge, but I miss, and he disarms me. He thrusts the sword deep into my pelvis. As he withdraws the weapon, there is a thought in my head, or maybe the man is speaking. The sword is stuck inside me. This is the wound of the fisher. If he pulls hard enough, then I will be lifted off the ground. For some reason I decide it is best to fake this. I lift my buttocks a few inches off the ground. Even so, the pain is real, but I understand that I will recover from this wound. I will heal and live and to fight again. This is the sacred text that preceded my trip to hell via the 1950s B-movie Flying Saucers, a Romanesque marble-clad aerial clock. I arrive on a beautiful spring morning. No third eye people, no plastic swords. Picture the Texas hill country. Red granite on outcroppings, blue bonnets, live oaks, and goats. Tens of thousands of goats, maybe millions. As far as the eye can see, millions of goats grazing on little blue stem. Some are adorned with brightly colored ribbons, which are being removed by a kindly man in a soft plaid t-shirt and tidy beard. These are the scapegoats, he explains as he carefully unknots a green and pink ribbon from one of his charges. These ribbons are all the sins of the world. When the goats first come to me, they are weak and battered from their long journey throughout the wilderness. I untie the ribbons and nurse them back to health. The goat tender shows us the black and gray remnants of a long-extinguished trash. This is where I dispose the ribbon. Before God was arrested, I kept the fire burning 24/7. There was no end to the sin. You burned them all? I ask. All but one. He reaches into his shirt pocket and produces a ragged strip of purple cloth. This one is special, at least to me. Why? I'll give you a hint. Get behind me, Satan. Jesus? Exactly. Know who he said that to? Judas? No, Peter. But he also called Peter his rock. Something to think about, I suppose. People are so eager to blame their sins on me. It's a heavy burden. There are a lot of goats. I do what I can, you know. I rebel one time, and I'm cast out of heaven forever. That I can live with, but to be blamed for every bad thing that everyone ever does. Everyone wants forgiveness for themselves, but no, not for me. Am I so bad, comparatively speaking? Well, you are the Prince of Darkness. How about the Job wager? That wasn't my darkness. God agreed to that one on his own. Does that sound so nice? Is that all goodness and light? No, I don't think so. How about a little sympathy, eh? Jack returns to the table with 2 more drinks and 2 friends. One is his girlfriend, Courtney, alter name Corvette, and the other I've never seen before. She resembles most of Plato's palace goddesses, big hair and small gravity-defying breasts that seem to support her halter top rather than the other way around. She has dark brown skin, but blonde hair and stereotypical Caucasian facial features. Really, she looks white, but with a shadow across her face, an inner world complexion suggestive of mystery and danger. She is made up She's made up in heavy mascara and glittery lipstick, like a little girl trying to look grown up. In fact, I assume she is a teenager. Most of the priestesses look like they really should be in high school. TABC inspectors are often alluded to, but they seem to be no great hindrance to primal worship. Other than her shadow look, she doesn't seem special at all. The girl juts out a boyish hip and looks me up and down, lips parted and sparkling. So you're the famous Mark Leach. Famous? Jack leans into my ear. I told her all about you. Fine. Her name is Cinnamon, and she considers herself to be the trendsetter at Plato's Palace. Famous, in fact. She claims to be the originator of the altar slap, a favorite move Plato's Palace goddesses. She even provides a quick demonstration, which I find both useful and agreeable. Where did you learn that? I asked, trying to be polite. I never had any idea what to say to a primal goddess. They are all like forces of nature. I'd just be effectively speaking to the tide. I invented it. What a coincidence. My grandfather was an inventor. And what did he invent? He came up with a process for color photography back in the 40s. Cinnamon appears suitably impressed. Is he rich? No, he was afraid somebody would steal his ideas, so he kept it to himself. Died virtually penniless. Cinnamon sucks on a chipped red fingernail, her interest obviously waning. I've never had any idea how to hold the attention of a primal goddess. What to say. And then I know. You were waiting for me. What? She asked. Why should I wait for you? I have myself waited a long time for you. In your dreams? And you are trying to escape once. What do you mean? I don't understand a thing you say. Oh, did he take pictures too? Your grandfather? Oh yes, he was a portrait photographer. Cinnamon smiles a premeditated bad girl smile and sits beside me, a sweaty thin thigh pressed hard against my hand. She leans in close, exhaling a hot perfumed breath, unreal, luxuriating in the goddess role she plays. Perhaps at Jack's quest, perhaps simply because she likes. I have no illusions that is because she likes me. You think he'd like to take a picture of me? Well, I bet you would, she says. Do you want to know my real name? Yes. Again she smiles, then stands up and sheds her insect print halter top. Her torso is actually a bit more impressive than I'd imagined upon my first cursory look. A misjudgment I attribute to a lack of practice looking at men's torsos. It had been years since I've had a good daylight look at Allison's statuesque modeled body, made of translucent flesh so delicate and pale you could see right through her to her purple veins. Ah yes, Allison is quite stunning and impossibly distant. She is no primal goddess. But I do not think of Allison for long, because Cinnamon is not performing a rite intended to exhibit her classical attributes. You can't even call it a rite, really. She doesn't move the music, or at least not to any music that is playing in the outer world. Yet there is an unmistakable rhythm to it, an insistent beat. She locks eyes with me and won't let me look away. She doesn't touch me, but I detect the heat of her body, hear her short, quick breath, feel the beating of tattered moth wings, smell her floral sweat. I seek the scent of gardenia, but it's soon lost in the jagged protein stench of raw, undifferentiated tissue, reaching deep into flattened, empty lung, floating through memories of meaningless solo DNA performances, climbing aboard a train, ripping on all the way through the misty neon-illuminated summer darkness, gazing into the countenance of distant deified granite, grabbing at paralyzed recollections of hopeless adolescence and the depreciated schematics of youthful desire. Floating, gazing, grabbing and pulling her into sacred proximity to my membrane. I have scripted to amuse. I cannot claim her. In fact, I cannot even move. My arms are lead pipes, blood drains from my head to the nether regions, engorged tissue straining against double-stitched seams. My eyelids flutter. I see the whole extent of the heavens. Ah, Cinnamon. The music stops, lost in a storm of hoots and cheers for the priestesses on the central altar. My personal rite is over. But no, Cinnamon has one more trick. She drops down on her knees. On the top of her head is bumping my abdomen. As she rises to her feet, I look down to see glittery lipstick on my fly. You can close your mouth now, Cinnamon said. She reaches for her top, her discarded cicada skin, then thinks better of it. Hang on to that, she instructed me. I'll be back for it later. She never told me her name, though I learned later she was named after a famous starlet from the early days of movies, Louise Brooks.